Around with my tech here. I'm pre-recording this on Tuesday night to go live on Wednesday morning because I'm back to homeschool and figuring out that in order to make this all work and actually, be present with my kids during our homeschool hours in the morning, I'm just clearing my morning and be fully present with the kids. So I went out grocery shopping tonight. And you're seeing this on Wednesday morning. So I went grocery shopping last night. And when I got home, I looked in the mirror, I'm like washing my hands, and I look up in the mirror and I'm like, oh my gosh, did I just go out looking like that? I had so many flyaways that I looked like I had horns. So I know some people are so gracious, so nice. You're like, oh, Terry, you look so put together for these lives. Well, I sit down and I actually see a reflection of myself before I hit go. And of course I redo my hair every time, but it's just comical. Like, have you ever gone out in public and then come back home and be like, seriously, why didn't I look in a mirror before I left the house? It must have been back to homeschool day. It was. So now that it's Wednesday morning, by the time you're seeing this, I am going to share with you about VBAC after 3 versus a planned C-section. Super controversial topic, actually, and anybody who's kind of been in this world or is about to be in this world will quickly find out that there are a lot of opinions. So I'm going to share on that a little bit today from my perspective. I'm a little bit nervous doing it, honestly, because this is such a hot topic for some women. Different people have very inspirational stories. Some people have horror stories. Some people have super strong feelings about it. Some people not so much. So my heart is really just, to share from my experience. Like I said before on Monday, let's, if this is something you choose to comment on, especially if you're very passionate one side or the other, just ask you to be gracious so that others who maybe don't, come to the same conclusion as you do. So today, how did it kind of go down for me? Because what happened, long story short, if you haven't heard it, I'm Tara, Christian wife, homeschool mom, 10 children, having my 11th later this year, right after Christmas, and it will be my 10th C-section. So 11th child, 10th C-section. I've never vaginally birthed any of them. It's because I had twins. So that changed the numbers. And it always messes me up when I try to remember my numbers. So when people ask me like, hey, Tara, should I have a VBAC after a planned C-section? I'm kind of like, step number 1, talk to your own doctor. Honestly, I will only give very general advice, and I'll try to keep it more specific to my experience so that it's encouraging, it's helpful to others as they think through their own very individual decision the way I see it. I'm not necessarily going to make a decision for someone else, especially something so serious like that has major implications. But I'm happy to share from my own experience in case that's helpful. So that's where I'm coming from today. So not a doctor, I'm not even in the medical field. I'm just another mom, a mom who happens to have had a lot of C-sections. And without getting into the whole backstory, because every mom could talk literally for hours about her own birth story experiences, right? And if you're a new mom, you find out pretty quickly that every older generational mom, like in my mom's generation, oh my goodness, they could talk your ear off with unsolicited stories. So I'm going to share with you what helped me make an informed, confident personal choice, and actually what didn't help me. So let's start with the didn'ts. What did not help me when I was facing these choices was other people's opinions. Now, it's kind of one of those eat the chicken, spit out the bone thing. And what I mean by that was other people's opinions who, they mean well, right? Other people, generally speaking, mean well. They're not really malicious when they're just sharing their own opinion with you. Typically, though, I found they were mostly anecdotal, and they weren't really referencing data or anything. It was just more like a story or other people's stories. And it was a combination of really inspirational stories of exceptions to the rule or horror stories, reasons to do a VBAC or reasons to do a C-section. And I found them mostly anecdotal. And what I mean by that is they weren't data-based. They were more just personal stories. And there's a time and a place to share personal stories by all means. I just found for me, I didn't find that super helpful, especially if I didn't ask for it. And someone was just like, oh, you're doing this course of action. Let me tell you why you're wrong. You're like, wow, that's pretty harsh. And I didn't even ask. Another thing that really did not help me when I was at this earlier stage when I had 3 C-sections now, I'd attempted VBACs with all of them, and without getting into the specifics, because everyone's got an opinion of how I could have done it better and it all would have magically worked out, was pressure from well-meaning people through typically their opinions of trying to protect me from harm. And I appreciate they're trying to protect me from harm, whether it's emotional harm or physical harm, with what they would do. but it was really like what they would do. And again, maybe it was like how I was taking it because I was younger then, wasn't as confident a person, didn't have as much mom experience that I do now, and just like life experience too. I also had a lot of boundary issues, but that's another talk for another day. I found it really difficult, speaking for myself, I felt like people were like, oh, you should do this because if you don't, terrible things will happen. And here's the deal, like, none of us is omniscient. Only God really knows what's going to happen down the road. And some choices are like, especially when you're thinking about VBAC or C-section. And I'm not talking about like a casual C-section. I'm talking about like a really serious decision to pursue a vaginal birth after 3 attempted VBACs with no prior, like no vaginal births, like not even one. That was my story. So it was a really difficult road. I actually could share with you some personal horror stories. I'm choosing not to because I actually don't want to influence your decisions out of fear, because it really didn't help me to have a lot of pressure and a lot of fear. What really helped me was information. And maybe that's just me, like how I work, how my brain works, how my heart works. I found that more helpful than just stories. And there's a time and place, like I said, for stories, but what helped me in this context, it may help you or someone that you love that you choose to share this with, was just getting data. Actual data versus anecdotal like evidence. And that just really helped me. I was like, well, what reputable, really well accepted in the medical community studies are there on multiple VBACs, attempting a VBAC after 3 or 4 or 5? What data is available to the average public that I could read and actually make sense to me, like case study reports and other things like that. Because for some people, an exception to the rule might be super inspirational for them. It might be just what they need to have courage to do something that's maybe against, what other people would do. Actually, for me, that's not the case. Because for me, exceptions to the rule are just that. They're exceptions, but it doesn't change the rule. So I was much more comforted when I was facing these really serious decisions. And I was facing it seriously because here's my deal. I wasn't going to have one more kid. I knew that because we had committed to welcome as many children as God sent us, barring massive life-threatening medical circumstances, that I easily could have 12 kids. I'm expecting 11 this year, and I'm turning 43 this month. So there you go. We're on track. So I wasn't crazy to be thinking of the long-term implications of pursuing VBAC. But eventually I did, as you can see, choose to commit to a road of C-sections. That was no easy decision. I still experience other people's opinions on that sometime, and it kind of surprises me. I'm like, I came to this decision like on my own by making, an informed decision. It's prayerfully, and I really can't go back and change it now. So when people tell me, oh, you should have done this, and I'm like, who can know? Really, who can know? So before I get too ahead of myself, information really helped me. The second thing was low pressure. Low pressure from my OBGYN, who's my primary healthcare provider and has been since baby number 4. And she's walked with me through attempted VBAC, walked with me pretty far, I might add, all things considered. And again, without getting into the specifics of it, just people around me who I trust, who are more calm people generally and not given to like hysterics and using more like fear-based, anecdotal, high-pressure stories to sort of maneuver you into doing what they would feel more comfortable with, but isn't necessarily what's the right decision for you. And it kind of makes them feel better, but it doesn't necessarily like really resonate with the road I have to walk out. I've got plenty of people in my life who would have liked me to stop having children at baby number 4. It would have made them feel a whole lot better. But that for me wasn't an option. So information, low pressure, and if there's people, like there were people around me who said, well, if you have any nerves about, if you have any kind of like hesitation about your decision, that's evidence of lack of faith. So you just need to have more faith, as evidenced by just like totally calm blue ocean emotions, like having no doubts. As long as if you have no doubt, then you have full faith. Like, do you understand what I'm saying? The logic there, that to have any nerves whatsoever was evidence of lack of faith. And we're like, well, your problem is you just need to trust God more on XYZ road or ABC road. I didn't find that helpful. I didn't find that helpful because I felt like a lot of people were speaking as if they had Holy Spirit level knowledge of exactly what was going to happen. And I don't believe that people always have that kind of knowledge. And that's something I wouldn't just take from anybody. That being said, if you're dealing with fear, if you're facing something like this, maybe this very specific scenario of like a repeat VBAC, an attempted VBAC, or a cesarean, another one, especially after 3. I talked about it on Monday if that's even possible. So if you want to check that out, feel free. I'd like to just direct you to something that might be helpful for you. I have a free guide available on my website, and I'll put the link in the description of this video so you can check it out. So if Christian women, a guide for Christian women to overcome fear, to really deal with fear. Because for me, it was like whatever road I took, there was going to be a level of unknown. And the fear of the unknown can be really intense. It can even be consuming. So to deal with that fear, I have developed just this very gracious, gentle, I mean, it's not like patented or anything, but it's just a gracious, gentle way of dealing with fear. So I've included that free guide for you. If that's resonating with you, it's something you'd like to check out, you think would be helpful for you, it's there to bless you. So here's the deal. If you're facing a big decision like this, or you're watching this sometime in the future and you never imagined you would be in this position, facing a VBAC after 3, an attempted one, and not knowing what's going to happen, no guarantees. And you see the risk, you hear the stories, some people have inspired you, some people have terrified you. This is my exhortation to you. At the end of the day, it's your choice. And that can be like, oh no, just someone choose for me, right? God just choose for me so I don't have to choose. And that's sometimes free will is a really overwhelming thing, and having to be adult and make a decision about it. So I'd encourage you to like get with your husband, get with God, get with some very trusted prayer partners, and make a decision that really resonates with you. Because the right road for one mom may not be the right road for another mom. And some of the hardest pressure that I experienced wasn't in the medical community when I faced these really difficult decisions. It was from mom friends, and still is to this day sometimes. So it does take a level of courage. And for me, information and some quiet, trusted counselors speaking into my life, that really helps me. And I hope it'll help you if you're facing something like this, or like I said, if you are in the future, because at the end of the day, God knows what's going to happen. And my value doesn't come from whether I had a successful VBAC or I've had 10 C-sections. My value ultimately comes from my identity in Christ, which has nothing to do with how my children were birthed into this world. So I just hope that encourages you that as you're facing this big decision, God is with you. It's your choice. It's a big choice. I get it. And if you want to talk about it more, pop something in the comments. You can always reach out to me or grab that free guide. It's there to bless you. So I think this actually is posting live right now, and I intended for it to be on Wednesday morning. So if I just went like 12 hours early, then God bless you, you're getting this one early. Let's see. I'm opening up the chat in case somebody wants to chat. Aw, here we go. It says Facebook user, but you know what's funny is when on this chat thing, I can't actually see who it is, and I don't know, like, who's talking? I want to say hi. So let me just pop open this group right now. I thought this would go live tomorrow, but it's going live right now. Oh, it's Jen. Hey, Jen. Who's talking? All right, let me just turn off my view. Hey, Nicole. Good to see you. Sometimes we do lose sight of things, eh? Well, ladies, I meant for this to go live tomorrow. Bonus, you caught it early tonight. I'm going to figure out how to do these things in advance because I'm going to have to start doing them at night. It's just realistically to be present with my family during the day. I'm going to pre-record these for now. And, maybe I'll figure out a flow. Well, not maybe. I think in the future, my husband's planning on going more part-time, and then we'll be able to do this more live. Anyway, we'll figure it out one step at a time. God bless you tonight. I hope this is a blessing to you, and I'll catch you later in the week and in the group. Take care.